Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Money with Alpha. Today I'm joined by the lovely Kerstin Rheinlander, and I'm struggling to say this in a I'll let you say your name properly because I say it the German way and I can't seem to manage how to say it the other way because I have that background. But suffice it to say, Kerstin is a travel gem, I would say. Like you have such a connection to, I mean, I know when I say to a lot of people, what do they love doing? And they love traveling. You have it on such a deeper, more beautiful level. And I know our conversation is going to go in all sorts of directions. So before we get there, you are also more than just travel. So I'd love you to introduce yourself a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you came to be a bespoke travel uh, creator, I suppose. It's so much like people will think travel agent. It's just so not that. So please put in your own words what it is that you do and why you love it so much.
Well, hi Alpha. I'm really lovely to be here and share some of my stories with you. So the English pronunciation of my name is Kerstin Rheinländer, but because I'm German, I will honor Alpha here. It's Kerstin Rheinländer, but we won't make it too complicated. I have been in the travel industry. Well, I usually say 25 years plus, but if I really am honest, it's been since 1985, so it's a long time.
Mhm.
Um, and over that time, I've traveled. I usually traveled my way. Um, and with that experience and that style, I have built a business that focuses on bespoke travel planning, mainly for professionals who are too busy and do not want to take on another project in their life. And when I say bespoke travel planning, it's about creating the journey that's right for you. Because yes, there are many destinations you can choose, and each and every traveler has a different idea of what that visiting that destination means to them. You know, somebody wants to have activities, the other one wants to have a restoration, then another one is focused on food and culinary. Sort of whatever floats your boat, I'll make it happen so you have a journey that's stress-free and seamless.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I'd like all three of those. But I don't know. Yeah, because and that would become sort of part of the challenge, I suppose, in a way, is making the choice. Because I know some trips you come back from and you're like, oh, I need a holiday to get over the holiday. But I think if it's done in the right way at the right pace, and that's where someone with your experience comes into it, you'd be able to say, okay, well, this is an itinerary that will give you that experience where you can still come back feeling refreshed, but at the same time have had activities and have seen like feel like you've seen and done things as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, you need to move away a little bit from the traditional travel agent perspective.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you go into a travel agent and they book a flight, they book a hotel, maybe some activities transfers, that's it, all boxes ticked. I'm not like that. Sort of for me, booking that part is actually the smallest part of everything.
Mm.
I like to have a conversation with clients. I like to understand who they are as travelers,
Yeah.
who they are in their life, you know, what's important to them. And usually their travel is supposed to be something that counters what's happening in their life. But many people still go through, you know, they treat their travel same as they would treat their life. Our life is busy, we're rushing, we've got so many, you know, candles burning at the same time, and then they go on holiday and it's all rush, 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 rush.
Mm.
Yeah, and with, as you said, with the you come back home and you go, oh my God, I'm so stressed, I'm so exhausted. And you know, I feel sometimes exhaustion after a holiday is almost like a label you put on. If you're exhausted from a holiday, it means it's been a perfect holiday. And I completely disagree.
Yeah.
You need to come home and actually feel restored and relaxed and be able to exhale and you go, oh my God, this was amazing. I had time to think, I had time to breathe. I've got so many great new ideas. You want to be energized. But so I take the time to have that conversation with people um, because I think that's more important than just going places and ticking off boxes.
Yes. So what does when you sort of think bespoke, I think probably one of the first things people think of is expensive. What does the concept of a bespoke kind of, is it a end-to-end itinerary? Do you organize everything, or how would a typical, I suppose, client pr like path work in terms of like from the
Mm,
idea to the actual you're experiencing the travel?
mm. So bespoke is not necessarily luxurious. It's what the client wants. So it's tailor-made.
Yeah.
Bespoke is focusing on what the client wants, what their outcome is of the travel, and then we work together. So consider me more like I thought about this the other day. A partner in travel, a travel planner, a travel strategist, and sometimes even a travel therapist. I don't know. I'm all packed in one, but we work on the outcome. So that's where the bespoke comes in.
Mm.
Um, it's as I said, it's not just booking and moving on. This is not how I operate.
Mm.
Clients usually come and work with me because they need a little bit extra. They want extra. They want a secluded place, a secret place. They don't want to fall, just keep on going where the tourist crowds are, because everybody can do that. Then your travel is not much different than anybody else's. And you work so hard and you want to invest um, some money in that enjoyment. So why
Mm.
don't do it right from the beginning?
Yeah.
And yes, I generally take on everything. I'm a full service travel professional, so I manage everything with in mind that for the traveler, they can literally sit back and relax, travel stress free, and know that there's always someone there
Mm.
to help them maneuver you know, delayed flights, cancelled flights, medical emergencies. I don't know, you name it. But I'm
Mm.
also sort of like your safety net and your peace of mind when you're traveling.
Yeah, which is really nice because when you are in a foreign country, in a foreign culture, foreign language, if something doesn't go the way it was meant to, you don't even really know who to. Like, I remember we had an experience a few years ago, and we were staying at an Airbnb, and there was a little bit of a hiccup, and getting a call from like head office Airbnb threatening to, kick us out. And then I'm just going, whoa, what on earth? It would have been really nice to have somebody in the back end there, like just smoothing everything over and sort of having like a rational conversation rather than making the holiday or that part of the holiday a bit stressful. So I
Mm,
and I th I think that ticking box thing, it becomes just a habit that we all do, like you said, in our daily life and in
mm,
our
yeah.
holiday life. And then that, and I also love the idea of being able to find places where there's, you can not nobody else, but very limited group of people who can find that, because everywhere you go now, it's just busy. I remember we were at the Cinque Terre a few years ago, and I feel like every Aussie had descended upon there because everywhere I listened, I was hearing more Australian accents than Italian.
Mm,
I thought, oh my goodness. So we actually then had to try and find places that were a
yeah.
bit quieter, and it's hard.
Yeah, if you look at sort of the travel trend in general, I mean, that has really shifted. And I remember when I started traveling, people traveled differently then.
Hmm.
There was no social media, so people
Hmm.
still went to places, but because they didn't have to be online and constantly say, look at me and look at this photo and look
Mm.
where I'm at, they could really focus on the destination and be
Yeah,
present in the destination.
yeah,
So their experience was with a lot more depth. And now we're just really chasing it. And I see some itineraries where clients come and said, "Oh, this is what I think I want to do," where I have to say, "Well, let's tune this down just a little bit,
yeah,
and start off why you're going there."
yeah,
If people just want to rush, by all means, do that. But I'm not the right person for you if you're looking for rushed itineraries.
yeah.
And I'm thinking, travel these days should be not about seeing more places.
Mm.
It's more about seeing yourself a little bit differently because of the places you visit. So the impact your travel is actually going to have on you.
Yeah.
And that I think that's one of the core philosophies I have as well. Why are you going? Why are you even traveling that far? And as a Europe travel expert, many people spend a lot of time getting there. I mean, we're on the road 24 hours before we even hit the ground. And
Yeah.
then I get it. People want to hit the ground running and take in as much as possible. And they
Mm,
sometimes forget that Europe in general is about the same size as Australia.
yeah.
The travel distance is the same. So it's just because there's so many little countries connected doesn't mean it's just a quick hop, skip, jump to get over there. So there's
Yeah.
logistics involved and so on. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, I love planning these itineraries and I love working with people so they can get the most out of it. It's
Yeah.
That's why I'm still in this industry.
Yeah, and you have had some amazing experiences yourself. We had to stop a conversation to hit record because I wanted to have a bit more of this while we're recording because you just came back not long ago from doing the Camino, and it was and I think it is difficult for someone who hasn't done it, like myself also, to understand the true impact. But I'd love you to share some of your experiences because I think what you've been talking about is perfectly reflected in the experience you just had. It was like amplified, perhaps, in what you experienced during the Camino. So if you can share a little bit about that journey, that would be
Well,
great.
absolutely, yeah. The Camino for me was, I think, one of the highlights in my entire 40 years of traveling the world.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I decided to walk the Camino because I got to a point last year in my life where I was emotionally depleted, burnt out. Uh, as a little background, both of my parents passed away last year, but they live in Germany, so I had to travel backwards and forwards. Like every 3 months, I was on a plane to Germany. As you know, it's 24 hours there, 24 hours back,
Yeah.
plus a 9 hour time difference. So it was stressful traveling. Then all the emotional upheaval, arranging funerals, dealing with estates, plus trying to keep my business afloat, which was not easy as well. So got to a point where I need to do something. I need to get time out for me, and Camino presented itself, and that's the opportunity I took.
Mm.
I did all the prep work because, of course, I know what to do. You need to walk and you need to be fit. And so I thought I was ready to go. And yeah, I started my walk, and the first 5 kilometers of my walk was uphill, and I just went pretty much cursing all the way because it's not what I expected. But those situations where you don't expect what's happening, there are actually gold mines because
Mm.
suddenly you start thinking about all sorts of things, um, the I think the first 2 days I was just really in my head trying to deal with everything that's going on,
Mm.
and stopping the noise. That was the most important thing, stopping the noise, no notifications, no social media, no
Yeah.
scrolling, just the simple task of putting one foot in front of another. And it might be so trivial, but it's not. It's like a journey you're on, and it could be any path. Doesn't have to be the Camino, but it's just the fact to take the time out from your life to really reset. And
Mm.
I tell you, the Camino was not easy for me, even though it was just walking from A to B, but we walked 20 kilometers, 22 kilometers. And somehow the last 2 kilometers of every day were the hardest I ever had to walk.
Mm.
I had blisters, I was exhausted, we had a heat wave. So all that you had to deal with.
Mm.
But at the end, I arrived and I went through so many mental struggles, but I arrived proud, proud of my
Mm.
achievement,
Yeah.
proud of what I've dealt with. And I look at it not at the end of a walking journey, but the beginning of a far bigger journey of transformation.
Mm.
And as women in particular, so I want to highlight that we do so much. We run our business, we often have families to deal with. Sometimes we even have staff to do. We're problem solving all day, we're chasing deadline after deadline, project after project. But there's one thing we forget, and that's ourselves. And that's where I really want to highlight that travel can be so much more than just going a place. It can be the start of a transformation, like it's been for me. And I've now, when did I return? In early June, I've returned from my trip.
Mm.
And since then, my life, my perspective, the way I run my business, everything has changed.
Mm.
And I'm so much more happier for it. So
Mhm.
I, talk to me about transformational and restorative travel. I'm your person, and I can
Yeah.
get you on the road for sure. But
Yeah.
it was an amazing experience, and um, not necessarily spiritual like everybody thinks. It's really all about yourself, and
Mm.
being able to be honest with yourself, be raw with yourself, be
Yeah.
authentic, and take the mask off. Just stop pretending everything's fine because it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's yes, and I agree. I think once we hit our I don't know, I think because we've got the energy and the hormones and everything that kind of help us going until we sort of probably hit, generically around your mid 40s. And I think this is where a lot of women like we hit a wall where we just cannot do it anymore. And not even just cannot, we just don't want to do it all anymore. But sometimes we don't necessarily have a choice, especially if there's aging parents. And there's that sandwich generation concept now where, you've got aging parents and young children at the same time.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
know I'm certainly feeling the the squeeze on both ends at the moment, and have done for a number of years. So the idea of that just sounds like, oh, it's amazing, but oh my goodness, could I really take that much time for myself? You're like, oh, that level of guilt. And then also the money side of it as well, because I'd be that, well, how could I spend this sort of money on myself? Doing whatever the trips sort of end up being. But
Mm,
ultimately, I think, when you're ready, you're ready. And like anything, we find the time and we find the
yeah.
money to do whatever it is that we want to do. But then we just need to also make sure we're actually getting what we want, which is why it's better to talk to someone like yourself and not just chat
Mm,
GPT an itinerary, which I hear people are doing a lot more now. And I'm like, really? Okay. Anyway,
yeah.
but
Oh, the AI discussion. We'll come back to that one some other time. That's a
yeah.
whole nother hour we can do. But yeah, when it comes to the money mindset around travel, it's actually a really interesting thing. And I see a lot of us, we focus on our business, we focus on our home, we're focused on education, and we make sure the children are right. But we really forget to invest in ourselves, and I question that why is it so easy to justify spending money on things that we own, but we have a difficult time to spend money on experience that actually could shape us who we are or who we can become.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll pay for a course that we don't use. And then at the
Yeah.
end of it, we may or may not have actually given us what we needed at the time. It might be what we thought we wanted, but then when you go on those sort of journeys of and travel is about self-discovery anyway. Like even if you're only going to see some stuff, there is no way you can't have an expansive experience. Like it's just the way it works.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, we'll find the money to do all sorts of other things except for that, and doing it in a way that is more meaningful rather than sort of going, oh, I'm just going to like go to this area and tick all the main boxes. I
Mhm,
remember we went to
mhm.
Hawaii a few years back, and there was like the top 10 things to do on Oahu. And of course, every time we actually went to three of them in a row and we couldn't find parking anywhere. So in the end, I was like, oh, that road looks empty. Let's turn down there. And we ended up finding this secluded little beach, which was just amazing. And it was locals. And I thought this is way better than all of the ticks. So then we went to Kauai and we found this. My husband found this book at the airport, and which was like all like the secret things. I was like, well, secret things in a book at the airport, not so secret. But anyway, but some of them weren't easy to find, and I think that's probably why they were quiet because one of the walks that we did, we couldn't even find the entrance. We were driving up and down and then walking up and down until we finally saw some locals actually coming out, and we were like, okay, that's the entrance.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's those experiences that have really stood out in my mind. Not the
Mm.
ones where you had all of the tourists and all of the lines and all of that. All of that blurs into one because it's all the same. But it's those special experiences. And yeah,
Yeah.
my having done all of the other stuff in the past, travel has taken on a new sort of perspective for me. And yes, I think we all need to prioritize the experience rather than the, bucket list.
Yeah, and that was, if you think about travel, way back hundreds of years ago, travel had a different meaning then. Travel
Yeah.
had a meaning of finding different communities, exchanging, you go on the Silk Route and people used to exchange wares,
Hmm.
spices were exchanged and you were learning from each other,
Yeah.
seeing how other communities lived, because, we have our reality, but other communities have their reality. Who says that our reality is the right one? It's actually not.
No.
It's a different one, and we forget that. We sometimes
Mm.
travel with that mindset to go, oh, what we're doing is right. How could they do it differently? But no,
Yeah.
it's like being open to learning from others. But with this tourism boom and everybody, heading to the same place, you're not learning. You're not learning anything.
No.
And and surprising, even big cities like Paris, where yes, you've got heaps of attractions you can tick off, but there are places in Paris that tourists don't go to because A, they don't know about it.
Mm.
And B, it's like, well, what do I get there? But this is where you actually connect then with the true essence of a place. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, do you just want to see things? Or do you want to connect with the locals and learn from them and learn what they're doing? So we tend to forget that
Yeah.
and just as I said, go by what everybody else says, what the influencers say. Big trips that been put together where you do, I don't know, 7 countries in 20 days. Those trips still exist. So,
Oh.
for me, this is like they're horrible.
Oh, I had a colleague once who he'd gone on a Kentucky tour. He'd never been overseas, and when he came back, and I was like, "Oh, yay! Well, tell me about your trip." And he's like, yeah, we went to a lot of places." I was like, "So, and you're showing some photos." I was like, "So where was that?" And he's like, "I don't know." I'm like, he actually had no idea where the photos were that he took because it was all a bit of a blur. Partly because I think they drink at night time and then are a bit hungover the next day.
Yeah.
And they're going, I was like, oh my gosh, you spent all this time and money going to Europe, but you didn't actually see Europe. You took a
Mm.
whole bunch of photos and you drank a whole lot. You may as well just done a pub crawl here and,
Yeah.
go on and take photographs of whatever historic buildings we've got.
Yeah, it could have been the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kentucky is still a bit of an initiation here. So for anybody who's young and want to see something very cost effective, Kentucky is the way to go. If you're 21, 22, that's the
Yeah.
perfect, that's the perfect way to start. And then
Yeah.
um, a
Go
lot of
from
people
there.
remember their Kentucky trips very fondly, I must
Ah,
say.
I never did a Kentucky trip.
Me neither. But I've had
Yeah.
some young travelers who did
Yeah.
it and they had a blast, but they all come back and say, well, it was too much. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Well, I think also when you were talking before, it brought my mind back to there was a movie, A Room with a View, where I think it was Maggie Smith's character was like the governess to Helena Bonham Carter, and they were going on to the continent for her. It was kind of like almost a rite of passage, like
mhm,
you think about the Native Americans and their vision quests. It was sort of the Western equivalent, where the well-to-do families would send their sons and their daughters over to the continent to have sort of that like eye-opening, enlightening experience, where they would sort of, and it would be a lot slower, obviously, because life back then was a lot slower. But I sort of think about that, and I was like, oh, that would be, a way to, like last year when we went back to Germany, and my father died in the middle of the trip, so the rest of the trip was a lot more was a lot slower and more contemplative, just because I couldn't sort of go at the pace because there was a lot of emotion going on. And we found ourselves in on this little island in the Baltic, Rügen, near up the top there, and we literally were just walking through fields, wheat fields and flower fields, and it was just, and there was the most beautiful forests I've ever seen. I remember walking through these going, oh my gosh, it shouldn't take a death for that level of like slowing downness to happen, but it was so beautiful and so like restorative, even just the few days that we spent in that area. I thought this is
mhm.
what I want more travel to be like, not
Yeah,
not the go go go. So yeah, the rest of our trip was a bit slower. We didn't see as much as we normally would, and it was beautiful.
yeah. No, sometimes we need to slow down to actually find back to ourselves.
Yes.
Must very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah. So what sort of things are you seeing? Like obviously the travel industry has changed a lot in the time that you've been in there. Have you, you've seen COVID obviously, which basically shut everything down. And then I feel like when it started up again, everybody was like, "Oh my God, we've all got to go like do everything." And that's the feeling I got when 2023 was when I went back overseas again after COVID. And I felt like everybody was just trying to fit everything in one go. It was like it felt manic. What have you seen over the course of your career?
Yeah, I think COVID was a very interesting time. And then when the borders opened again, you're absolutely right. It was absolutely manic. And I think for a year after our borders opened, I barely came up to breathe. It
Yeah.
was just so busy. And it was not so much travelers needing to see something, but it was mainly travelers needing to connect with family overseas. And
Hmm.
being in Australia, we have, a lot of people have family somewhere in Europe or in the US or wherever, but there was a lot of traveling happening there.
Yeah.
Uh, there was families who had lost a loved one during COVID and needed to go back there because funerals were held back or there was memorials. So it was an interesting time.
Yeah.
And then it sort of calmed down again,
Hmm.
and people started planning traveling again. Like the travel confidence had come back, but there
Hmm.
was still this urge to go and see as much as possible. So we
Yeah.
then, we're hitting places where there's lots of over tourism, Venice, for example, or
Hmm.
even Paris in summer, Rome in summer, all those big cities, they are just overwhelmed with tourism, and some of the locals are actually protesting against that as well. I mean, we saw that in Barcelona, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
People are not too happy, but on the other hand, tourism also feeds the locals, so it is a bit of
Yeah.
a, it's neither right, it's neither wrong. What I specifically see with a lot of the travelers I deal with in luxury travel, there has been a shift as well.
Hmm.
Where people used to embark on these journeys where it was all about look where I'm staying, look at the resort, and look at this. It was all
Yeah.
about showcasing the luxury, and that
Hmm.
has somehow shifted to uh, the new luxury is more like space and not being seen. So some
Hmm.
of the travelers now are looking for hideaways in Tuscany or hideaways in Asia, or places where they can go that are maybe exclusive but are not talked about that much. So
Hmm.
it's a shift where people really are looking for space,
Yeah.
and that's become more valuable than the expense of possibly one of those spaces. It's like secluded islands, and there's some beautiful resorts popping up all over the place. There's some beautiful hotels that actually cater to this spacious space that the traveler is looking for, and that feeds in again with the way people are seeking to travel, getting away from all this. They're looking at after hour access to certain things. Like there's this
Hmm.
beautiful hotel that's in Versailles, for example.
Yeah.
They are connected to the palace, and they offer before or after hour access when the crowds are gone. But of course, you've got to stay at the hotel. But
Yeah.
these are the places that are popping up as really unique,
Yeah.
and where people even see the value of spending a little bit more,
Hmm.
but they're not being talked about that much because they're becoming all these little
Insider
hidden.
secrets.
Yeah, I won't call it hidden gems because that's a word that's overused, but I think insider secrets is a bit of a is it's a good phrase there.
Yeah.
And then people come home, they say, "Well, we have the most amazing holiday. It was calm, it was restorative,
Mm.
and it was life changing or whatever." So, but you just got to get on a trip. That's it. Don't make it a last priority. Make it your first priority.
Yes, yeah. And I really love that because I remember years ago, it's Disneyland, but I stayed at the Disneyland Hotel with a friend of mine, and one of the things they offered was like you got to get to the park. I think it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. You could have breakfast there, and the park didn't open till like 9 or something like that. So you had hours to yourself. I was like, this was actually really nice. So, and it reminded me of that last week when we were skiing in New Zealand, and oh my goodness, the lines for the chairlifts.
Yeah,
And I said, and my husband hates theme parks because you have to line up to go onto a
yeah,
ride.
yeah,
And I said to him, I
yeah.
was like, this is for me just like lining up in a theme park to get on a chairlift. And he looked at me, he's like, oh yeah. And I was like, mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy skiing, but he's more the skier than me.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, there's got to be. And I think I was like, this is why people do like heli skiing, or obviously,
Exactly. Yeah.
obviously you've got to be a really good skier to do that. And I'm not at that level, but I was like, there's got to be a way to make this so that, and it can't even be
Mm,
like because you can't stay on the slopes after they've closed because it gets dark. And you could get there really early in the morning, perhaps that would be the only thing. But again,
mm,
it also takes a while for it to open. But I think having somebody who's got the in on the right places to go and how to access it, and I think that's becoming more and more valuable because you're not going to get that if you're Googling it. And I don't think you're even going to get it from AI because they're just going to pull out whatever it gets the most hits um, on the algorithms.
yeah, yeah. Oh, well, AI is pretty good, and I tell you what, for some itineraries I have seen, there's some good ideas in there, but AI misses one major thing is
Hmm.
the human element, and it's exactly that. Is there enough
Yeah.
buffer in there to get from A to B?
Yeah.
Is this really what you want? Do you know what it does? It's a great hotel, but do you know that there's actually construction happening next to it? Or, uh,
Hmm.
AI does not know the in-betweens. It's a
Yeah.
good starting point. And I'm actually surprised. A lot of people use it, and they use it like Google for me. And I'm honest, I use AI as well. It helps me work faster,
Yeah.
but it's not the tool based on which I would actually book a holiday. It's a starting point, and it's the
Yeah.
same like a search engine like Google, nothing different.
Yeah.
So just because it has a different way of accessing information, you still need someone to help you. So
Yeah.
if you want to book everything according to your AI itinerary, you make sure you also ask AI who you can contact in case of an emergency, see what they come up with then.
Yeah. Oh, the construction thing. I stayed in Sydney. My daughter was only about 18 months old, I think. So she was still doing like day naps and all of that. And they were still building the light rail along George
Mm.
Street. And oh my goodness. So, I mean, I didn't use AI for that. I just like booked it. But of course, I didn't know that bit. I thought, even just a simple booking and accommodation in Sydney. Wow. Yeah. That
Mhm.
would have been handy to know.
So there's one simple thing, to how to distinguish AI is AI just does not have any judgment.
Yeah.
That's it. As
Yeah.
simple as that. It's got maybe brilliant ideas, but no judgment whatsoever.
Yeah. And no experience, like no personal experience. Like
No,
for instance, if
nothing.
someone came to you and wanted to book the Santiago, like the Compostela Trail, the
Yeah,
Camino, and you'd be like, wow, yes, I have, I've been there. I can tell you exactly what this and this and this and at what point you're going to be feeling, potentially this or this is the hard bit. Like you can provide that which a bot would never be able to provide
no,
because they will not have that level of insight.
no.
Even if they've
And
read someone's blog and their experience, it's not the same.
no, it's never going to be the same as first-hand experience. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've got a bit of that under my belt, I must say.
Yeah. Now, are there like trending kind of like parts of the world? Are you seeing certain countries that are emerging, or are there like if yeah, are there things that you would sort of say to someone if you're looking for a place in Europe and you don't want to go where everybody else is going? Are there certain countries that you'd suggest, or is it very individual?
Um, it's yes and no. So it's very individual what the traveler is interested in. But as of late, I've seen Croatia
Hmm.
emerging a little bit more.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the Eastern Bloc countries, so Slovenia, Slovakia.
Hmm.
They've got beautiful walking trails, Montenegro.
Hmm.
Everybody basically on the upper side of the um, Adriatic coast
Hmm.
to Italy.
Yeah.
Uh, I've seen places like Corfu come up.
Hmm.
Some of the Greek islands that are not sort of dominant islands people will go to, so not Santorini, Mykonos, or Crete, or wherever everybody goes to,
Yeah.
but there's smaller islands. Turkey is having a revival as well, where
Okay.
people are seeing more, showing more interest. Beautiful
Yeah.
country to visit,
Yeah.
and in Italy is still very strong,
Hmm.
but there's areas that as people are moving away from your Florence, Rome, Venice, Tuscany,
Hmm.
and moving further south into Puglia, which is really beautiful and has a very heavy food focus.
Hmm.
Lots of olive oil comes from there. The
Yeah.
beaches are nicer. So,
Yeah.
uh, the other thing, Portugal is picking up a little bit more.
Hmm.
So there's pockets where, yes, you go to France, but what else can we do there? Why don't you go to the south of France? Because people generally try focus on sort of the main areas. And
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate for looking at what I call second or third cities. So not the obvious cities. Yes, you've got to land there, but then spend a few days there and then move away from the cities, and that's where you actually find all the beautiful countrysides and so on. But
Yeah.
yeah, what else is popular? Scandinavia is still popular. People are heading up to Lapland to see the Northern Lights
Yeah.
that are still shining brightly. Yeah, there's lots still happening in Europe. Asia is picking up as well. People are looking into places with added wellness.
Yeah.
So around the Ayurvedic wellness, and you have that in India, you have it in Bhutan is picking up.
Yeah.
Then also wellness areas in Thailand and Vietnam,
Hmm.
places that are maybe closer to home than having to go all the way to Europe.
Yeah.
Uh, Popular still is Antarctica.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, so there's many, many places in the world. You know, the world's got
Yeah.
so much to offer. So you can have your dream, and we can turn it into reality.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds amazing. Yeah, I love it. So, how can people find you? So, there's a wealth of experience that you've got, and there is a huge world out there. And
Mhm.
sometimes I think the decision part is tricky. So, having someone experienced to help them craft it and to actually make it happen is
Mhm.
important. So, how can they find you?
Well, they can find me through my website. I work under the banner of Travel Managers. So just look for Kerstin Rheinländer. I think Alpha might have to put that
I'll
spelling
put the
some.
I'll put the link in the show notes as well. Just
Yes,
yeah.
do that. So if you could pop a link into my website, but I'm also active on LinkedIn. You can follow my stories there. I have a newsletter on LinkedIn you can subscribe to, or through my website, you can subscribe to my travel managers newsletter. So you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram. So if Alpha can pop all the details there, just get in touch for a conversation. I usually offer a 30-minute free consultation to see, to hear about what your travel plans are and to see if we're a good fit.
Mhm.
And then we can take it from there.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Goodness, you've got me daydreaming now. Of all the places. Oh, I
Yes.
love
Oh,
it.
I
So,
can talk about travel till the cows come home. It's been
yeah,
my passion for so long,
yeah.
and people ask me because I grew up in Germany. They go, "Well, why did why did you leave Germany?" Because
Mm,
for me, from a very young age, I always said there has to be more. There
yeah,
has to be more than the small town that I came from, and I've made it my mission to discover the world. And I think I'm well on track to do that.
yeah,
I would
yeah.
have, I need another 40 years to really complete that, but I will see how we go.
Yes, well, longevity becomes the thing, and it's restorative longevity traveling. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I know. It's got
yeah,
to look after yourself, so get traveling.
that's it. Oh, I love that. That's the catchphrase for today. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone else listening enjoyed that sort of, I felt like I was being taken to all these places as you were talking about them as well. So it was a lovely daydream. So get booking, contact Kirsten and get traveling. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
week, everyone, and thank you
Thank
so
you so
much for
much for having me as well. I really appreciate that.
wonderful. All right, well, I will catch everybody in next week's episode.